You have to get setting, you have to get character, you have to get conflict, and you have to nail the pacing. Because young adults are, I mean, there are exceptions. There are people that will sit down and read Tolkien, you know, front to back. But there are a lot of others that get really impatient with long passages of description. So it's, we really have to choose the exact right word, and only one of them, instead of 15 or 20 or, you know, 3 pages of description.
But she's read other books the same, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, because she wants to keep rediscovering. So, and I think a really well-written book will let you rediscover as you read things that you missed the first time. I think that's the book reading experience that young adults are looking for, and particularly in the like 12, 13, 14-year-old range. I mean, how many of us as adults have time to read something twice? I'm lucky if I have time to read it once.
You can only go on story, and if you don't have a good story, they're not going to stay with you. So in some ways, as you were saying earlier, writing for young adults and children is a bit more of a challenge than for writing for adults. I mean, how hard is it to write for adults? And I say this as someone who, for my own personal taste, I find some of the adult fantasy is getting a little too softcore porn and a little too violent for my personal taste. And I find that I'm turning a bit more to the young adult stuff, partly because it's a little milder in those areas, but also because they have to have more story. That's what they have to go on.
You can't pad the plot in a young adult novel.
Right.
Unless you're J.K. Rowling, you know, which is not a criticism because I love her plot padding.
Yeah, the old do you outline or not, and that story about Tolkien, that when he wrote The Lord of the Rings, he had a ring and he had characters he wanted to send on a trip. And out of that came that entire huge trilogy. And I think it is, I don't outline ahead, although I may have some. There's a quote from Terry Pratchett where he talks about writing a novel as looking down into a valley full of mist, and you can see a top of a tree here, top of another tree over there, and maybe you can see to the other side, which is the ending, but you don't necessarily know what lies between. And
with the outlines, I'm a big outline person, you know. But when murder mysteries and mystery in fiction, if the ending in my book isn't great, then the whole book, to me, isn't great. It doesn't matter what was in the book. If the ending falls flat on a mystery novel, then it's, you know, I didn't like it, you know, because that's the last thing I remember after I read it. It's the last thing I remember when I watch a movie or whatever. That ending is so important. So that's why I do outlines, because I really want that ending to work and not have to fight to you know, I'm 3/4 of the way the book, how's this going to end, you know. So that's why I do the outlines, so that I don't get myself into a bind, because I tend to see that ending. And I like that idea what you then mentioned, that with the trees and you kind of see the tops there, and you can kind of build your way to each tree. But I do like that. And I think that if there's anything, mystery is one of those things that really does need a little bit of structure.
Yes, absolutely.
For that.
It's like the difference between country music. It's like the difference between country music and soul. You know, country music has to be, I'm so sorry. Country music is really a structured, very precise on the voice, and mysteries are like that as well, I think.
And again, getting back to the outline versus not, I think, you know, writing is a creative, messy, inefficient thing. And so even if you know, outliners out there, even if you have an outline ahead of time, is it flexible? Yeah, because really unexpected things happen. Just as you said, you know, you're going along and you think you know exactly, and then all of a sudden this character takes off and does something unexpected, and sometimes that's the most wonderful thing that could have happened, but it involves a lot of rewriting.
It was when I did work with literary fiction that I came to realise that the biggest amount of crap in any field exists in literary fiction. Absolutely. And I realised I so did not want to read that. Whereas suspense and thrillers and fantasy and mysteries and women's novels were just, fabulous.
That's one of the beautiful things, I think, of the young adult genre, is that it's young adult, but that can encompass these other things, the mystery, science fiction, fantasy. It still could be under the headline of young adult. I have twins, they're 9 years old, and they've read the Harry Potter books over and over and over, and I'm like, let's try to get you into something else, you know, and no, do the Harry Potter, you know. So I picked a book that I got me into science fiction fantasy, you know, as I was a kid, and I got this, and they begrudgingly, they sat down and I read the whole thing to them, you know, and now they're like, what's the next one, what's the next one, you know, so
But that took effort on your part,
I had to do it, I had
You
to
had
sit down
to
and
introduce, yeah, it takes a little more effort. It needs parents and educators to make the extra effort to wean them off one particular brand with an identifiable logo. Am I allowed to ask a question? Please do.
No, I just feel really excited to, I just feel really excited to be up here and have this opportunity to hear from everyone. And I was wondering, with the other panelists, techniques do you use to create suspense in your books?
The main character, if he's scared or she is scared of someone, then that can build suspense, even though that person might not really be the bad guy. And I think that's where, I think you might have mentioned Snape. Snape was a scary guy, you know, in the Harry Potter books. You know, he even in the movies, he looks scary, you know, but in the end, you find out that maybe he wasn't quite what you realized. And that type of thing is what I like. You know, building upon the character's fears, those type of things. I think that can be very suspenseful.
One very great way to build suspense is simply to have the reader care deeply about your character. You're going to have them on the edge of their seat if they care what happens to your main character. And so you absolutely must not alienate your reader.
Ending the chapters in a suspenseful way to get them to continue reading.
The Hardy Boys.
Yeah, every
Always
chapter.
ended on a hook.
Yeah, every chapter, keep reading.
I always like also withholding information from the viewpoint character but giving it to the reader. You know, so the reader knows that this character is in danger and the character doesn't, you know, look out, look out.
Don't go into the basement.
You know, and it's a very
Don't
classic,
sit there.
it's a classic technique, but it's the reason it's a classic is because it works.
Yes, yeah. I always like to put a character in a position whereby there is something that they really, really need, that they absolutely must have. And the reader I want the reader to feel that, and then I want to put the mother of all obstacles in their way.
Is there anything that people would like to say by way of summing up? Or is it
Read my book.
Yes. Anybody like to do commercial before we?
Yes, shameless self-promotion. I'll be at the autograph session tonight, and you know, I've got.
Yeah, I think we'll also.
And my books are in the dealer room. I'm sure other people's are as well. So you know, that's a good place to check them out.
You all got a free copy of this in your bag, so this is the audio book, which is kind of exciting because there's like lots of different character voices.
Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you all for coming out.